This morning I had the absolute privilege of talking to Carol Pope, a double hip replacement patient at 38, and she is still in recovery. From both of her hip replacements, she's really struggled with depression, anxiety. She has a counsellor and a therapist just to get past the fact that she completely lost her identity throughout her surgeries. This is not an unusual occurrence. Often women lose their identity because of their surgeries, especially as an athlete and especially as a runner. But I want you to know that's okay. It happens to so many women. And she talks really open and honestly about her struggles and the journey that she's had. She does keep her video off for privacy reasons, which I totally get. But this interview is raw and ready, and especially if you are struggling with anxiety and depression after your surgery, this is the one for you. Enjoy. You should have therapy and coaching, because therapy does everything in your past and helps you get past that, but coaching just looks to the future. It helps you kind of like figure out exactly what you want, what's been in your way, and how to get that. And I specialize in basically with surgery. As you will probably know, it rocks your mindset. So quite often you can build your body back really, really strong, but your mind's still way back in the past being like, but what if we break again?
Mm-hmm.
And so I work at coaching ladies on how to bring their minds to the same stage as their bodies, but like truly bring their minds to the same stage as their bodies so they can move forward. So it's all about kind of grieving the body part that you've lost, grieving that past identity, and then rebuilding a stronger one so that you can actually move forward, and that the self-doubt of like, oh, what if I break again, doesn't impact other parts of your life.
Okay, that's awesome. That makes sense. I appreciate the elaboration. I've never heard of a post-surgical coach before, but I think it is a very neat idea.
Thank you. Well, I've been in and out of surgery 18 times now, and
Oh my gosh.
it's something that I've noticed massively, and even from the women that I've talked to, especially really fit ones like you, it's just sort of like it feels almost like a massive step back. And it's just like, I have to do all of this work again. Like I've got to this point and like I'm so strong, and it just always seems like a setback. But I sort of work very closely with ladies to reframe that and sort of help them move past like, yeah, you have, it's basically like a death. It's a death of like a
Mhm.
bone, it's a loss of something inside you, and move past that and sort of rebuild a new, more confident identity post surgery. Because if you forget to work like strengthen your mind after surgery, it can quite easily leak into everything else that you're doing. Like you get offered a promotion at work, and you're like, oh, maybe I can't do that. And it's just
Yeah,
like this little bit of self doubt that keeps sneaking into everywhere. So
yeah, that does make sense.
yeah.
Very cool.
Thanks. So I'd love to hear a bit about more about you and what your situation is and where you come from. You've had double hip replacements, I understand.
Yeah. So I am just turned 38. I am a runner. I'm a sort of new runner. I started back in, I don't know, maybe 2019. Never been athletic, fell in love with running. Um, I in early 2020, or I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous. In early of 2024, I started feeling some pain during an intense training cycle. I was doing a lot of races back to back, which isn't super abnormal for me because living in Florida, most races are in the winter, so you don't die during the summer. Um, but the pain just kept getting worse. It was like weird groin pain, but then it would bounce around to my knee and then sometimes my shin. Uh, when my leg almost went out from under me, I knew that there was something wrong.
Mhm.
It wasn't just overtraining. So I went to physical therapy for a few sessions and was not seeing any sort of results. So went for imaging, and that is when I found out I have hip impingements. So it caused arthritis and torn labrums. Hip impingement is sort of like hip dysplasia's cousin. Basically, the heads of my hip bones are too big for the socket.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I had my first hip replacement September 17th of 2024 and my second one on March 4th. So just a little over 2 months ago.
So you're very much in the recovery stage, hey?
Yes, still touching the stove to see if it burns, and it usually does. But I'm trying to remind myself that if it's anything like last time, one more month and I will be pretty close to normal. I mean, not really, but I'll be able to exercise a little bit more vigorously. So I'm looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what kind of things are you putting in place to sort of help your recovery?
I lost my entire identity when I lost running. Um, my mother also passed away about 6 months prior to the news about my hips as well.
Sorry.
And so I went through kind of an identity crisis, and I started counseling with a therapist and also seeing a new psychiatrist to try to see if medication will help. So a lot of it has to do with my mental state and also just realizing that rest is as important as everything else is because I did not rest enough. I did not stretch. I did not strength train. I only liked running, so that's all I did. And now I'm learning that there's a lot more to it. Just running myself into the ground isn't healthy, even if it seems healthy.
Yeah, yeah, I gotcha. I was very similar, sort of just like, no, I just need to get my body stronger and I just need to get back into exercise and then I'll be fine. And it's a lot more complicated than that. And I'm really sorry that
Yeah,
your mum died at the same time. That's a lot to deal with.
thank you. Yeah, it was a long 3 year battle with cancer, so it wasn't unexpected, but it it was very difficult because running is also my main social outlet. I'm very introverted and shy, and I'm a very active member of my running club. So, and I work from home. So, most of my social interaction comes from running. So that was hard to deal with. However, I'm very lucky to have some awesome friends who, we've stayed in contact, just as much as if I were running, other than the running part. Um, but yeah, and there was a moment in time where I wasn't sure if I was going to continue to run because running on hip replacements is sort of controversial. So I kind of grieved that for a while until I decided that I was going to continue running because, my mom died rather young, who's not to say that I'm not going to as well. So I'm going to try to live my life the way I'd like to, and running is a big part of it. So
I love that. I think that's awesome that you've chosen to do that. Awesome. Yeah, I remember getting the news that you're not really allowed to run anymore. And I'm lucky I hate running. But I'm a cyclist. I love cycling and snowboarding. And so
mm,
for me, it was the snowboarding. It was just like, I will be able to snowboard again because you ain't doing nothing to me if I can't snowboard. Um, so yeah, I really get that kind of, no, I need that sport. Like I need it for my health. I need it for my mental health. I need it for who I am.
mhm.
How is your journey sort of rebuilding that identity? I'm sure in recovery it can be a little bit of a battle. How is your
Um, I thought that this was surprising to me. I thought that I would be more optimistic after my second surgery than what I am, but it has nothing to do with my recovery or how the surgery went. I have one of the best surgeons in my state. Everything has gone by swimmingly, but I've been inactive for so long that now I'm wondering, like, can I muster up the will to do everything I need to do in order to get back to where I was? I thought I'd be chomping at the bit, and I am in certain respects, but you know, an object in motion stays in motion, an object at rest stays at rest. So it's just, I don't know. So I've been just trying to stay active with my running club by going to different social events and volunteering when I can, and going for walks. You know, I meet with my friends from the running club on Saturdays, and sometimes they'll skip their run and they'll walk with me, which means a lot to me because if you know a runner, skipping a run is a big deal.
Yes.
So yeah, just trying to stay active in the club and get my mind in order and get strong in between this like kind of purgatory period where I can do a little but not a lot.
Mm. How is that actually making you feel? Because you said this is your second one, and it's, you're not bouncing back as much as you want. Like, why do you think that is?
Social media for sure had my expectations
Oh, yeah.
raised higher than they should have been, namely Reddit, honestly, and some of the Facebook groups too. But you hear stories about people who, you know, were tap dancing out of surgery and they're 60 years old. You know, so I assumed I'm an athlete, I'm younger, I'm, you know, 12 weeks, I'll be fine. And I'm about 7 months out now on my older hip, and it does feel very close to normal. But I also can tell that I have a lot of work to do when it comes to strength because I couldn't really do a whole lot in between hips since one hip was still bad. So, yeah, I can't really remember what the question is. I'm
No, no,
sorry.
no, no, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, no, it was just sort of like, as you said, that you were struggling with your identity, and I was just like, it's really interesting me to hear how your operations have done that, and it just sounds to me like you do have a lot of extra self-doubt because you're told one thing, but actually it it does rock you if you like, oh, but social media is saying this thing. I had a very similar experience and went back to my surgeon after 6 weeks and I was still in my crutches and I was livid because I was like, you said I would be doing this by this point. And he's like,
I know.
you're not 80. They just want to put us to the shops. You, Carol, want to do like massive runs. The expectation is what
Right.
you want on your hip is very different to kind of like what other people do. And unfortunately, social media can only show you like, part of the story. So
Yep, exactly.
yeah. But I totally understand how easy it is to get sucked into like, but I'm supposed to be really fit and why can't I do it? So I hear
And
you.
also, yeah, like I was talking to Carrie Bradshaw a little bit about this. I don't know if you have met her tangentially through Instagram or whatever. She just ran the Boston Marathon and she's got double hip replacements. And we were talking, and it seems like there's this weird competition with hip replacements. Like, you don't hear of people saying, I broke my leg, but I was walking 3 miles, you know, 6 weeks later and it was awesome. But you do hear stories like that when it comes to hip replacements when they are breaking your leg and cutting out a massive chunk of bone and hammering things where they don't belong. And so I don't know. Hip replacements just seem weird. There's just this weird expectation that you're supposed to be up and at 'em right away. I think maybe I don't know if this is different in America as well, where it's outpatient. Like I was in the hospital for less than 5 hours for each hip. They don't keep you overnight. So I don't know. It felt very much like a baby bird being pushed out of the nest too early.
Yeah, we're normally up and out at the hospital within kind of like a few hours. I wasn't because my blood pressure was so low, so I did actually spend a night in hospital. But generally, they do try and get you in and out, and I get it. It's just sort of like, but my brain is still scrambled with the drugs. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, um, and that pain, and yeah, you just kind of got to figure it out. And I understand like that sort of like, it's interesting that you said like there's a competition with hip replacements. That's a really interesting observation. I like that because I think you're right. Like there is, especially when there's hip replacements when you're younger.
Hmm.
Um, because yeah, it is. But I think it's also like it's almost proving to yourself that you're not broken as well. Like, I can overcome this. And if a hip replacement has got the ideology and the perception that it's only for 80-year-olds and you've had to have it when you're 30,
Mhm.
it does shake that kind of, as you said, sense of identity. And I wonder if that's why everybody's just like very competitive with hip replacements, because they're just like, I shouldn't have had this so young.
I think you're probably right. Just rushing to get back to normalcy,
Yeah.
normality. Yeah.
Yeah. Which it sounds like you're guilty of, and I most certainly was as well.
Yes, I'm trying to be better. My my issue this second hip replacement was an intense fear of infections. I've always had problems with anxiety, and hip replacements have not helped that at all.
Mm.
So for the first, I don't know, month or so after the second hip, everything was going to be an infection. My cat scratched me. I rushed to the hospital for antibiotics because I figured that was going to be an infection.
Oh.
I do a little bit of yard work because I feel up to it, and I get a cactus spine in my finger. I can't get it out. I go to urgent care so they can take it out for me and give me antibiotics because it's going to be an infection. I'm feeling much better about that, and that was largely fueled by Dr. Google, and have just stopped doing that. And that I'm feeling a lot better about that. That was the big trial for hip number 2, is just the overwhelming fear of infection.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Infection was one of the things that never even crossed my mind when I had mine done. But you're not the.
Yeah, for a lot of people it isn't. I think it
Yeah.
just being chronically online, especially when you can't do anything other than lay on the couch and watch reruns of Survivor, you end up going down too many rabbit holes, I think. And I also really like to research and learn about medical stuff. So
Oh yeah. To the detriment every now and again, hey.
yeah, I'm done with this. I can't handle it.
So, have you, something that I always find really helpful when I'm doing my recovery is actually before I go in, I set up little projects to do afterwards. Not big ones, but like lying on the sofa just watching Survivor reruns. I don't find that helpful. Like, I'd like that perception that, oh, surgery is like a massive setback.
Mhm.
If I set up little projects and little goals for every single day, then it keeps my mind active and it really helps me kind of like move past the recovery like a lot faster. And that's where the whole idea of my coaching business came from, because I've done it so many times that it's just like, oh, okay. And I wonder if sort of thinking about sort of tiny little projects or goals that you actually want to do rather than sort of watch Survivor or look up some medical research and everything like that, things that you generally want to accomplish or you generally want to do that you could just start while you're not being able to do the running, so that you still feel like you're progressing in a different way, but it might just not be exactly the running that you want to do. Just an idea.
Yeah, that was 100% my intent. I was going to join online Toastmasters to try to
Oh,
improve my public speaking
wow.
skills. I was going to practice guitar. I was going to write more. I had many things on my list and I did none of them. And a lot of it is just the depression and anxiety that came with it. So it's hard. This isn't my first rodeo with having depression issues, but when you're in it, even though I know what I need to do in order to feel better, it's hard to get to that point. But like I said, I think as time goes on and I'm able to do more and I'm not in near constant pain, then maybe I'll feel more motivated. Although I don't think I don't really like the word motivated because nobody feels motivated. You just got to do it. But hopefully I'll feel more up to doing little projects, because you are right, laying around doing nothing is not conducive to anything.
Why do you say that being motivated is not really a thing?
I think that in the same way that people say they wait for a muse, it's a way to put a hurdle in front of yourself instead of just doing the thing, I think.
Hmm.
Motivation wanes, but discipline doesn't. I mean, discipline can too. I'm very undisciplined right now, with my diet and all that. But I don't know. I don't put a lot of stock in the word motivation. I think discipline is better.
Okay. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. So, is there anything that you've learned from both of these that you would like to pass on to somebody else?
Do not compare yourself to others. Everybody's recovery is different. Everybody's surgery is different. Even if you're having the same surgery as someone, your surgeon is different. The outcomes are going to be different. It's just going to be different. Have patience with yourself and try to slow down if you feel like you're rushing things and listen to your body, even though it's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say mostly don't compare yourself to others.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good one. It just holds you back, eh, and just makes you feel even worse.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate that you gave me a bit of your time, even though you were nervous and everything like that. So thank you so much. It's been really interesting to hear your story. And I really, really hope that it gets better and you feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you do ever want to consider any coaching, let me know.
Okay.
All of these little things that you've sort of said of just like I'm not motivated, I'm determined and stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever come across coaching before, but it's all about sort of being able to get you past these little sort of blockages and perceptions and assumptions in life that kind of keep you stuck in a certain space.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I work with a lot of ladies that have come from sort of much more anxious space because of their surgeries and are trying to get back to life and just have a couple of things that are just weighing them down from actually moving forwards and building the life that they want again. But no pressure. I just want to know, like, to let you know that if you did want to do that at any point, just please let me know, because I would love to work with you, because I can hear the frustration in your voice at the moment. And it would just be wonderful to kind of help you get back to full capacity, running your best life and just loving every second of it, you know?
Well, I appreciate that very much, and thank you for doing what you're doing, and for listening to my story. And